My grandmother's ring was never supposed to leave the family. Not because it was expensive, not because it was famous, because it meant something. It was a thin gold band with a small sapphire in the center. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that would catch the eye in a jewelry store window. But for 3 generations of women in our family, that ring was a promise. My grandmother used to say it represented continuity. When life gets messy, she once told me while polishing it gently with a cloth, you hold on to the things that remind you who you are. She wore it every day of her life. When she passed away, the house felt strangely quiet without the sound of her slippers moving through the hallway. My mother handled most of the arrangements. She always liked control during emotional situations. Said it helped her cope. A week after the funeral, we sat at the kitchen table sorting through my grandmother's things. Old photo albums, recipe cards, a wooden jewelry box that smelled faintly of lavender. When we opened the jewelry box, the ring was there. The sapphire caught the light from the window. My mother picked it up first. She turned it between her fingers for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable. Then she said something that surprised me. Your grandmother wanted you to have this. I looked up quickly. Me? She told me years ago, my mother replied, placing the ring carefully into my palm. She said you were the one who understood family. The metal felt warm, even though it had just left her hand. I slipped it onto my finger. It fit perfectly. For the first time since the funeral, I felt something close to peace. But peace doesn't last long in families where resentment hides under everyday conversations. 2 months later, the ring disappeared. I noticed it on a Tuesday morning. I kept the ring in a small ceramic dish on my dresser at night. That morning, when I reached for it, the dish was empty. At first, I thought I'd moved it. I checked the bathroom, my desk, the kitchen sink. Nothing. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. I walked into the living room where my mother was drinking coffee. Mom, I said carefully, have you seen Grandma's ring? She didn't look up from her phone. No. You're sure? She finally glanced at me. Why would I take it? I didn't say you did. Then don't ask me like I did. The conversation ended there. For the rest of the day, I searched the house. Closets, drawers, under furniture. The ring was gone. By evening, the house felt tense. My mother avoided me completely. When I tried to bring it up again at dinner, she snapped. It's just a ring, she said sharply. Just a ring. The words felt wrong. It's Grandma's ring, I replied quietly. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. I stopped talking, but something inside me had started to shift. A week passed, then another. The ring never appeared. I tried to convince myself it was lost. Maybe it slipped somewhere. Maybe it would turn up eventually. Then one Saturday afternoon, my mother pulled into the driveway with a brand new car. Not new, but new enough to shine like it didn't belong in our quiet street. A silver sedan. I stepped outside as she climbed out, smiling like she had just won a small lottery. What's this? I asked. My car, she said proudly. You already have a car. That old thing barely runs. She tossed the keys in the air once before catching them. I stared at the vehicle. It looked expensive. Where did the money come from? I asked. Her smile faded slightly. Don't worry about it. Mom. She turned toward the house. Stop interrogating me, she said. But the answer was already forming in my mind. Later that night, when she was asleep, I checked the paperwork on the kitchen counter. The purchase receipt was still there. And under the payment section were 3 simple words that made my chest tighten. Private jewelry sale. I stood there staring at the paper. Suddenly I knew. My mother hadn't just misplaced the ring. She had sold it. Sold the one thing my grandmother trusted me to keep. And used the money to buy herself a car. But what I didn't know yet was who she sold it to. Or how far I was willing to go to get it back. I didn't confront her that night. Not because I didn't want to. Because I needed to be sure. Anger is powerful, but in families it can easily be turned against you. If I accused her without proof, she would simply call me dramatic again. She had always been good at that, making my reactions seem like the real problem. So instead, I folded the receipt carefully and slipped it back where I found it. Then I went in my room and sat on the edge of the bed. The empty ceramic dish on my dresser felt like it was staring at me. My grandmother's ring had survived 50 years. It had passed through births, marriages, illnesses, and losses. And now it had been traded for a car payment. The thought made my stomach twist. The next morning, I acted normal. I made coffee. I asked my mother if she wanted toast. I complimented the car when she mentioned it again. She seemed relieved, almost cheerful. "See?" she said, twirling the keys in her hand. "Sometimes you just have to do something nice for yourself. Something nice for yourself." I nodded slowly. Then I asked, "Where did you sell the jewelry?" She froze. Only for a second. But I saw it. "What jewelry?" she asked. The receipt said, "Private jewelry sale." I figured maybe you sold something old you didn't wear anymore. She shrugged, avoiding my eyes. "Oh, that? Just some pieces from the box. Grandma's box." "Yes." The casualness of it made my chest tighten. "You sold family things?" I asked. "They were just sitting there," she said. "What good is jewelry if no one uses it?" I watched her carefully. "And the ring?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward me. "What ring?" My patience snapped. "Grandma's ring." Silence filled the kitchen. Then she sighed dramatically. "You're still stuck on that?" "You promised it to me. It was mine to give." "And yours to sell?" She leaned back in her chair, clearly annoyed. "Listen," she said, "your grandmother left everything to me. I decide what happens to it." That's not what she told me. Well, she told me something different. The lie sat between us like a wall. "Where did you sell it?" I asked again. She stood up. "That conversation is over." But it wasn't. Not for me. Later that day, I drove downtown. Our town only had 3 places that dealt in estate jewelry. I started with the smallest one. The owner was an older man with round glasses and careful eyes. When I showed him a photo of the ring, one I had found on my phone from a family dinner years earlier, he shook his head gently. "Haven't seen it." The second shop was the same. No luck. By the time I reached the 3rd store, the sun was starting to set. This one was larger. Bright lights. Glass cases filled with engagement rings and antique pieces. A woman behind the counter greeted me politely. "Can I help you?" I showed her the picture. "My grandmother's ring," I explained. "It may have been sold recently." She studied the photo closely. For a moment, nothing happened. Then something in her expression changed. "Wait here," she said quietly. My heart started beating faster. She disappeared into the back room and returned a minute later holding a small black tray. And on that tray was the ring. The sapphire caught the light exactly the way I remembered. For a moment, I couldn't speak. "That's it," I whispered. "I thought so," she said. "It came in about 10 days ago." 10 days. Right before the car appeared. "Who sold it?" I asked. "I'm sorry," she replied gently. "We can't share seller information." "Of course. Rules. Paperwork. Barriers. Has it been sold yet?" I asked quickly. She shook her head. "Not yet." Relief flooded my chest. "Then I want to buy it." She checked the price tag and slid the tray closer. The number written there made my stomach drop. It was almost 3 times what my mother had likely received for it. I swallowed. "I'll come back tomorrow," I said. As I walked out of the shop, the evening air felt colder than before. The ring was still within reach. But now there was a new problem. To get it back, I would have to buy the one thing that should have never been sold in the first place. And somehow, that felt even worse than losing it. That night, I couldn't sleep. The number on that price tag kept replaying in my mind. 3 times what my mother had probably received. 3 times the value of something that was never supposed to be sold at all. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about my grandmother's hands. The way she used to twist the ring gently when she was thinking. The way the sapphire would catch the sunlight when she poured tea in the afternoon. To anyone else, it was just a piece of jewelry. To me, it was memory. And memory suddenly had a price. The next morning, I checked my savings. It was enough. Barely. But it meant emptying the account I had spent 4 years building. Travel plans. Emergency savings. The quiet safety net I had always promised myself I'd keep. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I closed the laptop. Some things matter more than numbers. I drove back to the jewelry store just after they opened. The same woman stood behind the counter. When she saw me, she gave a small, knowing smile. "You came back." I did. She brought out the black tray again. The sapphire shimmered softly under the store lights. For a moment, I just looked at it. Not angry, not sad, just aware of how fragile family promises can be. "I'll take it," I said. The paperwork took only a few minutes. When she placed the ring in my hand again, something inside me settled. It felt like reclaiming a piece of my grandmother that had been wandering. As I turned to leave, the woman hesitated. "Can I say something?" she asked. I nodded. "You're the third person this week who came in asking about that ring." I blinked. "The third?" "Yes," she said. An older woman came first. My chest tightened. "My mother." She shook her head. "No, someone else." "And the second?" "A man." I frowned. What did he want? He asked if it had been sold yet. A strange feeling crept up my spine. Did he say why? She shrugged. He just said the ring belonged to someone who deserved it. I walked out of the store holding the small velvet box, my mind racing. Back home, my mother's car was parked in the driveway, gleaming proudly in the sunlight. She was sitting on the porch when I stepped out of my car. "You went somewhere early," she said. I did. I walked up the steps slowly. Then I opened the velvet box. The ring caught the afternoon light. Her eyes widened. "You bought it back?" she asked. "Yes." Her expression shifted between irritation and disbelief. "That was unnecessary." "No," I said quietly. "Selling it was." She crossed her arms. "It was mine. It was hers first. And now it's yours again," she snapped. "So why are you still angry?" I looked at her carefully. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking for approval. I was just seeing her clearly. "I'm not angry," I said. She looked surprised. "Then what?" "I'm done expecting you to care about the same things I do." The words landed softly but firmly. She didn't respond. Maybe she didn't know how. I slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit exactly the way it always had. Then I turned and walked inside. Later that evening, as I was making tea, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, a man stood on the porch. He looked familiar. It took me a second to recognize him. He had been one of the workers at my grandmother's funeral. A quiet man who had stood near the back, hat in his hands. "Hello," he said gently. "I'm sorry to bother you." "Yes." I heard about the ring. My heart skipped. "You were the one who asked about it at the jewelry store?" He nodded. "I worked with your grandmother for years. At the community center." I remembered then. He used to help her organize charity drives. "She told me once," he continued, "that ring would go to you someday." I held up my hand. It did. A slow smile spread across his face. "Good," he said. Then he tipped his hat politely and walked away. I stood there for a moment, watching him disappear down the street. The house behind me was quiet. My mother's new car sat in the driveway. Shiny, expensive, temporary. I looked down at the ring. Simple, small, permanent. My grandmother had been right. When life gets messy, you hold on to the things that remind you who you are. And now, I had it back.